What if I told you that the man who would become one of the world's youngest billionaires was once digging through garbage cans for his next meal? What if I revealed that his fortune wasn't built on luck, inheritance, or even a brilliant invention, but on a single, counterintuitive principle that goes against everything society teaches us about success? And what if I promised you that by the end of this story, you'd understand exactly how he did it, and how you can too? The man I'm about to tell you about discovered something so powerful, so fundamentally life-changing, that it transformed him from sleeping on park benches to owning private jets in just 10 years. But here's the twist that will shock you. He says his homelessness was the greatest gift he ever received. Stay with me, because what you're about to learn will shatter every assumption you've ever had about failure, success, and the hidden opportunities that surround us every single day. Once upon a time, in the unforgiving concrete jungle of Chicago, there lived a man named David Chen. At 40 years old, David had nothing. Not just financially nothing. We're talking about a complete and total collapse that would break most people permanently. He had no home, no family, no friends, no job, and no hope. His last $3.47 had been spent on a gas station hot dog 2 days earlier, and now he was living in Millennium Park, using newspapers as blankets and public restrooms as his only refuge from the bitter Midwest winter. But David wasn't always homeless. Just 3 years earlier, he had been living what most people would consider a successful life. He was a middle manager at a tech company, pulling in $85,000 a year, living in a decent apartment, driving a reliable car, and dating a woman he thought he might marry. He was comfortable, safe, and completely ordinary. He followed all the rules society had laid out for him. Go to college, get a job, work hard, save money, and everything will work out. Then life happened. First, the company downsized, and David's position was eliminated. The severance package barely lasted 2 months. Then his girlfriend left him, saying she couldn't handle the stress of his unemployment. His savings evaporated faster than morning dew as he struggled to maintain his lifestyle while job hunting. Pride kept him from asking for help until it was too late. 6 months after losing his job, he lost his apartment. 12 months later, he was sleeping in his car. 18 months later, the car was repossessed, and David found himself with nothing but a backpack and a crushing sense of failure. For the first few weeks of homelessness, David was consumed by shame and self-pity. He would spend his days in libraries not reading or learning, but simply hiding from the world, replaying every mistake he'd made, every opportunity he'd missed, every decision that had led him to this moment. He felt invisible, worthless, and completely defeated. But then something extraordinary began to happen. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, David started to notice things he had never seen before. When you have nothing left to lose, when every assumption about how life works has been stripped away, you begin to see the world with startling clarity. David noticed that the homeless community had its own economy, its own networks, its own unspoken rules and hierarchies. He observed how some homeless individuals seemed to thrive despite their circumstances, while others spiraled deeper into despair. He watched how certain people could generate money seemingly from thin air, while others couldn't scrape together enough for a meal. More importantly, David began to see opportunity everywhere. Not the kind of opportunities that required capital or connections or credentials, but opportunities that required only one thing: the willingness to provide value to others. He noticed that many homeless people were struggling with basic hygiene, which made it nearly impossible for them to find work or maintain dignity. So David learned where to access free showers, clean restrooms, and donated clothing. He began sharing this information, creating informal networks that helped others present themselves better for job interviews or social services. He observed that many people in the business district walked by homeless individuals every day without really seeing them. But David realized that homeless people were perfectly positioned to observe patterns that others missed. They knew which buildings had the best security, which areas had the most foot traffic at different times of day, which businesses were struggling or thriving. This was valuable information to the right people. David started small, He would offer to run errands for busy office workers during lunch hours, picking up dry cleaning, standing in line at the post office, or delivering documents across town. All he asked for was enough money to cover transportation and a small fee for his time. Word spread quickly. People appreciated his reliability, his attention to detail, and his willingness to handle tasks that others found inconvenient. But David's real breakthrough came when he realized something profound. His homelessness wasn't his weakness, it was his superpower. While everyone else was trapped in the matrix of conventional thinking, he had been forced outside the system entirely. He could see opportunities and solutions that were invisible to people still caught up in traditional approaches. David began to study the city like a scientist. He mapped traffic patterns, identified underserved markets, and spotted inefficiencies that others ignored. He discovered that there was a massive gap in services for the elderly population in downtown Chicago. Many seniors needed help with technology, grocery shopping, and basic errands, but existing services were either too expensive or too impersonal. Using nothing but hustle and creativity, David launched what he called Guardian Angels, a service that connected reliable, background-checked individuals with seniors who needed assistance. He started with just himself as the service provider, using public phones to coordinate appointments and operating entirely on referrals. The beauty of David's model was its simplicity and scalability. He didn't need an office, expensive equipment, or significant startup capital. He needed only trust, reliability, and a deep understanding of human needs. Because he had experienced rock bottom personally, he could relate to others who were struggling. Because he had learned to survive with nothing, he could operate with minimal overhead. Within 6 months, David had recruited and trained 12 other individuals to provide Guardian Angel services. Many of them were formerly homeless themselves. He developed a rigorous screening and training process, ensuring that every Guardian Angel was trustworthy, professional, and deeply committed to serving others. The business grew through word of mouth at an incredible pace. Satisfied customers told their friends, their neighbors, their family members. David's Guardian Angels weren't just providing services. They were providing hope, companionship, and dignity to a population that often felt forgotten by society. As the business expanded, David began to see even bigger opportunities. He realized that the principles that had made Guardian Angels successful could be applied to other markets and other problems. The key was always the same: identify an underserved population, understand their real needs deeply, and provide solutions that were personal, reliable, and genuinely valuable. David launched Guardian Angels Corporate, providing businesses with temporary staffing for special projects. He created Guardian Angels Tech, helping seniors and other technologically challenged individuals navigate the digital world. He developed Guardian Angels Properties, a property management service that treated tenants and property owners with equal respect and attention. Each business followed the same fundamental principle: provide extraordinary value to people who had been overlooked or underserved by traditional companies. David's secret wasn't revolutionary technology or insider connections or inherited wealth. His secret was something much simpler and more powerful. He had learned to see opportunity where others saw only problems. By the time David turned 50, his network of Guardian Angels companies was generating over $100 million in annual revenue. He owned properties in 6 states, employed more than 2,000 people, and had built multiple successful businesses from absolutely nothing. But perhaps most remarkably, he had never taken on debt, never accepted outside investment, and never compromised his core principle of putting people first. David's transformation wasn't magic. It was the result of a fundamental shift in perspective. When he lost everything, he was forced to abandon the conventional wisdom that had failed him. He stopped looking for someone to rescue him and started looking for ways to rescue others. He stopped focusing on what he lacked and started focusing on what value he could provide. The secret that changed David's life, the principle that took him from homeless to billionaire, can be summarized in a single sentence. When you have nothing left to lose, you discover that you have everything to gain by serving others. David learned that true wealth isn't created by taking from the world, but by adding to it. It's not about finding the perfect opportunity, but about becoming the kind of person who creates opportunities wherever they go. It's not about having the right connections or credentials, but about developing the character and skills that make you genuinely valuable to others. Today, David still visits Millennium Park regularly. Not because he has to, but because he chooses to. He mentors others who are facing their own rock-bottom moments, sharing not just his story, but the practical strategies and mindset shifts that made his transformation possible. Here's what David wants you to understand. You don't have to lose everything to gain everything. You don't have to become homeless to see opportunities clearly, but you do have to be willing to abandon the conventional thinking that keeps most people trapped in mediocrity. The opportunities that surrounded David during his darkest days are still there, waiting for someone with the courage and vision to seize them. The principles that transformed his life will work just as powerfully for you, regardless of your current circumstances. Your turn to transform. David's story isn't just inspiring, it's a blueprint. Right now in your own life, there are opportunities surrounding you that you haven't recognized yet. There are people you could serve, problems you could solve, and value you could create that could change everything for you. But here's the question that will determine your future. Will you continue living by the conventional rules that have kept you where you are? Or will you have the courage to see your world through David's eyes? I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share one specific way you could provide value to others in your community. What problem could you solve? What service could you provide? What opportunity are you overlooking right now because it doesn't fit your preconceived notions of how success should look? Don't just read this story and forget it. Let it change how you see your circumstances, your challenges, and your potential. David's billion-dollar secret is now yours. What will you do with it? Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Tag a friend who's facing challenges right now. Let's create a movement of people who understand that their greatest setbacks might actually be their greatest setups for extraordinary success. Your transformation starts now. What's your first move going to be?